Hi everybody, Jim Ostrowski back with the snowstorm version of the Liberty Moving podcast. Yikes. I hope this is like riding a bike because I feel like I've forgotten how to do this. It's been so long. And the snow's falling. I've been super busy. And the weather's been terrible here. I don't really care about the weather too much, but sorry, I got cheat notes today. How's that look? Not terrible. So it's been super icy because of freezing and thawing, and the bike path has been treacherous. So now we've got ice, but it's snowing on top, so it's not too bad. So just want to catch up and talk a little bit about Trump land. Personal announcement, I'm going to be in, almost lost it. I'm going to be in Rochester on Tuesday at the Appellate Division at 10 o'clock sharp. I'm the first case on the calendar, arguing a case, trying to get a guy a new trial in a criminal case. He's been in jail for 13, 14 years. This is kind of like, I don't really talk about the law practice that much, but this has kind of been my specialty over the years, criminal law. I don't do a lot of it anymore for reasons I won't get into. But I have handled several cases over the years of people trying to get a new trial after they lost all their appeals. I've had some success, and I've had some losses too. And I tend to be in the situation where the next firm after me wins the case, but I feel like I contributed something. It's happened a few times, and sometimes I've won some cases I don't get credit for, whatever. But I'm hoping, I'm optimistic about this case. We'll see what happens. I don't know, but I like to, after the argument, I like to go to. It's a tradition. I go to Dinosaur Barbecue, have a decent lunch. So anybody wants to come to court and hear a really interesting oral argument that really matters, and then grab some lunch nearby, you're welcome to do so. We can chat about politics or whatever. So just want to talk about what's going on with DOGE. I have a few thoughts, and we'll see how it unfolds. As I said, I'm a little rusty. I don't know if I can do a podcast anymore because it's like John McEnroe stopped playing tennis for a year and was never the same guy after that. But so I understand what DOGE is doing. It's, there obviously a lot of money is spent in silly ways, but, my point is really that this is to be expected. This has been true for, 100 years. And so why is something being done about it now? And I think it's pretty much of an accident. I think that, and so I don't think we can really rely on the DOGE, method to save us from wasteful government spending for the next 100 years. You got a president who was elected on a fluke. This president is an accidental president. They didn't see him coming the first time. They thought he was kind of a joke. I saw him coming, as people who follow my Facebook page know. I've been accurately calling, the whole Trump scene for like 8-9 years. He's a super rich guy with excellent communication skills. They didn't see him coming the first time, and he kind of accidentally got elected president. Then they tried to destroy him, and he valiantly, bravely fought back, and now he's there again. So, and then he just happened to team up with one of the smartest guys on earth, Elon Musk, who's super rich. He doesn't fear anybody. And yeah, they're going after a few studies of, gay frogs and weird stuff like that. That's sort of low-hanging fruit. But when you look at these, the amounts at stake, it's really not that much money. And the real action, getting warmed up here a little bit, mentally. The real action is not DOGE. The real action is the Senate and House budget bills. Now, the Senate, I'm really down on the Senate. never been really up on the Senate, but the Senate is a pretty horrible place. And they're not going to cut as much spending. They're more corrupt. They're more deep state. They're more sort of GOP machine than the House. The House has a few renegades. The sociology, social psychology of the House is different. I really like the House members more than the Senate, and I'm not one to admire politicians of any kind. But the House bill, if you look at the House bill, and it's not very good. It's not very good. And, they talk about how they're going to, let me get across the street here if I can, not get killed. Don't kill me. Slow down, mother. I won't say that. So, Happy Mother's Day was what I was trying to say. So, the House bill says, we're going to cut, a couple $100 billion. I mean, the budget is like almost $7 trillion. And they have this way of spreading out these budget plans on a 10-year plan. And it's just a way to bullshit you, because they say we're going to cut 1.5 trillion. No, it's not annual. It's like a 10-year period. And one House of Representatives cannot bind the next House of Representatives. So it's all bullshit. Now, at the same time, they're going to increase spending in other areas. And they're also going to extend the debt limit, which is really quite stupid if you ask me. It's really, hands kind of cold. I have warm gloves and I'm still cold. It's really not a great prospectus for the podcast, but I'll tough it through. So it's really stupid to increase the debt ceiling, because the debt ceiling is really, almost lost the connection there. I don't know. I guess I can't do this in the snow. There's the natural tendency of government is to grow. Government's been growing since 1776. It doesn't grow in a steady pace. And there are countervailing factors. We talked about this a little bit. Ideology can help, and not much else can help, in all honesty. So what if you want to stop the government from growing, and a lot of the stuff is baked in the cake, what do you got on your side? Well, you got the debt ceiling. I may have to cancel the broadcast because the signal keeps getting interrupted, probably because of the snow, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know. But if that keeps happening, I might have to cancel and redo this. But in any event, I'm getting a walk in anyway. This whole podcast started by me deciding to walk every day. And then basically I just got bored walking and I started doing the podcast. So the main thing is the walk. The podcast is secondary, but I do enjoy the hell out of it. So to just cave on the debt ceiling when you can use that to get down to brass tacks and cut spending, that's just typical sort of progressive big government Republican bullshit. So that's where the action is. It's not DOGE. It's the House budget bill sucks. It's going to be even worse when the Senate gets it, and then Trump's going to probably sign it, and spending's going to keep going up. And I really think that, as much as I support it, I mean, I don't oppose what DOGE is doing, but I guess this is what I oppose. It's all ad hoc, and nobody is. Sorry, I can't see the terrain what it used to be before it snowed earlier today. So nobody's drawing any. I was thinking about this last night, that ideology is everything, and ideology determines everything, and nobody's talking about ideology. So what is the ideology of DOGE? And as far as I can tell, there is no ideology. It's just whatever Elon Musk thinks is spending the government shouldn't do. But what are we learning any lessons from this? I can't think of whatever stupid example of spending they've talked about, gay theater in Palestine or whatever it is. What is the lesson? Like, why is that money being spent that way? What is the remedy? How do we make sure this doesn't happen? And what should the government be spending money on? Because if you're talking about, like, here we go again with the signal. I assume it's the snow, and I guess what I've learned, Edison learning an experiment here, don't do actually the snow's about to stop, so hopefully we'll be okay. But yeah, don't do podcasts while it's snowing because it might interfere with the signal. But if you talk about waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid system, Medicare, Medicaid, doesn't matter to me. They're both stupid programs that we should be eliminating. So doesn't that imply that the non-waste, fraud, and abuse part of Medicaid is a good thing, is a legitimate government function? We only had Medicaid and Medicare come along in the late 1960s because this odious Lyndon Johnson wanted to out FDR. FDR was evil enough. We didn't need an FDR 2.0, but that's what we got. So, again, MAGA doesn't have an ideology. The ideology of the Republican Party, which is different from MAGA, is progressivism. It's like a sort of a right-wing progressivism. So the problem that I have with MAGA is there's no ideology. There's no economic education going on. We're not learning anything from this. So after Musk gets through cutting a couple billion here, a couple million there, a couple thousand there, big government's going to go on. And if Trump loses the midterms, if the Republicans lose the midterms, that's basically it. Trump's never going to get another bill in. So no major spending cuts are in the offing. The only department they've thought of getting rid of is the Department of Education, and fat chance, I don't think it's going to happen. And they're not even really talking about eliminating it. They're talking about moving it to the states. I don't want to fucking move it to the states. Just get rid of the goddamn thing. So I guess my point is, I'm not done, but just to sort of give a preliminary conclusion here. The liberty movement is not being put out of business. Guys like me, crying in the wilderness, will still have a function because I don't think these guys are going to get it done. And so I'm going to continue on with everything that I'm doing, everything I've been doing for a number of years to try to really get at the heart of the problem. And I think I kind of did that with progressivism, a primer. If you don't get at the core of the ideology that's been ruling us, nothing really is going to be accomplished in the long run. Somebody said we had a little debate on Facebook about getting rid of Social Security, and somebody said, what are you going to do about the disabled? Well, I'm not going to answer that question, but I'm going to question the question, because that's a classic progressive question. Because what is the underlying assumption of that question? Well, one underlying assumption is there's a solution to every problem. Because if you didn't think there was a solution to every problem, you wouldn't be asking me, what are you going to do about the disabled? And another underlying assumption is that the government is capable of solving any problem. And another underlying assumption is that sorry, I'm stumbling over a really simple idea, which is that all resources are scarce. So if you say, well, we're going to take care of the disabled, what you're really saying is, I'm going to take a lot of resources that exist that are now being used for other things, and I'm going to take those resources away from those things, and I'm going to give it to X constituency, the disabled in this case, or the poor, or whatever your constituency is that you claim you're going to be taking care of. But there's no realization that, well, those resources have to come from somewhere because all resources are scarce. And you see my point. My point is that unless we de-brainwash people from the ideology of progressivism, which I tried to do in my book, you're always going to have the knee-jerk reaction that any problem that comes along is the province of the government. The government is sort of the last problem solver standing, and that the government's capable of doing this and it should do it, and it does a good job at it. Whereas the libertarian approach is completely different. The libertarian approach understands that government is very bad at everything it does and usually makes problems worse. So you see how, and I'm going to talk about some of these specific programs in a minute, and then I'm getting a little cold. So it's not going to be one of my longer podcasts. Of course, I've said that famous last words. I've said that before. So let's talk about, let's say if Jim Ostrowski was in charge of DOGE. I think we can approach it from that. I have some cheat notes here. What I could say so many things, and I haven't had a podcast in a while, so I'm kind of combining a bunch of things here. You know, if you understood, as I do, as I wrote a book called Political Class Dismissed, if you understand what government does and why it exists functionally, not like in our fantasies and wishes and hopes, wishing and hoping and all blah, blah. If you take a cold, hard look at the government, at the state, as it exists now and as it has existed through history, there's some debate about how old the state is. Some people think that the state's actually just a few hundred years old. I kind of take a broader definition of the state. I think it's older. I mean, what is the state? What is the government? Well, I talked about this in Political Class Dismissed, and Rothbard talked about it, and the libertarians have been talking about it for 300 years. The government is the organization of the political means of acquiring wealth. So all DOGE is doing is like somehow finding out that people use the government to get rich. It's like, Elon, dude, booby. That's an obscure movie reference. Die Hard. That's what government does. The government is a way to get wealth without working. Hello? That's what the fucking government is. Jesus Christ. By the way, I applied for a DOGE position and never got contacted. But it's just fine. You know, freedom of association. Moving on, doing my own thing. It was so unpaid. I was willing to work as a volunteer. So that's, you see what I'm saying? If you, there's sort of a shallowness to DOGE. This sort of ad hoc, I think Ayn Rand would have said, kind of a concrete bound mentality, like a grant to the Palestinians for queer theater is like some sort of primary fact of reality, and you can't go underneath it and sort of get to the bottom of it like I've done and say, you know, when they take that money out of your pocket at gunpoint, what is it about that gun that you don't understand? The reason why they're taking the money at gunpoint is because they want to use your money in a way you don't want to use it. So it's like, why is anybody shocked that there's all sorts of ways the government's spending the money that the government stole from you out of your pocket? So think about it this way. If you got mugged and somebody stole $100, would you go around wondering how they spent the $100 and then you found out that somebody bought a lottery ticket with it? You say, that's waste, fraud, and abuse. You didn't spend my money properly. You see how silly the whole thing is? So let's talk about what, so basically when you really get down to it, I just got a few minutes left. When you really get down to it, all the government does is redistribute your money and spend it on shit that you don't want to spend on. And I have the receipts, I have the receipts right here. We'll talk about it before I finish. So that's basically what it does. Now, it has a bunch of rationalizations for what it does, and almost none of them have anything to do with the original purpose of government that we've learned about in school, the founding fathers, to protect our rights and all that stuff. Hardly any of it has anything to do with protecting our natural rights. So that's one category. All the bullshit the government shouldn't be doing under the original understanding of American government. And by the way, the founding document of American government is not the Constitution. Don't be a Constitution worshiper. The founding document of the country was the Declaration of Independence. Government has grown ever since. Government's been growing ever since we got the damn Constitution in there. That's a topic for another podcast. So, let's do it this way. It's kind of trying to tie all these threads together, if I can. Maybe I can't. So, government is basically the organization of the political means of acquiring wealth, which is acquiring wealth through coercion. And it does that because the people in government and the constituencies of government don't want to work in the free marketplace because working is hard. It's easier to take the money from other people. So pretty much by definition, all the money that the government takes is going to be spent in a way that you don't want. Otherwise, they wouldn't have. That's why they have the gun there. That's why the mugger has a gun or a knife or threatens to beat you up with a rock or something. Because they know that they want to spend the money differently from you do. If you just keep that thought in mind, everything else follows naturally. So I did a quick summary of what American government spends, and I'm talking about state, local, and federal. So American government spends about $10 trillion a year. So let's talk about it. K through 12 government schools, $1 trillion. Why? The government has no competence in teaching. The government is good at conquering territory and taxing people and making sure people don't revolt and making sure no foreign country invades. That's what the government's good at. The government has no skill set in education. We did not need the government schools originally. They stink. They're horrible places, and they should be abolished. Why isn't the Republican Party in the 23 or 4 states they control getting rid of government schools? They could get rid of them easy without any interference from Democrats because they control those states. And the reason is the Republican Party is progressive. Government schools are a progressive program, and they believe in these programs. So that's why the liberty movement is not going to be out of business. These jokers are not going to get the job done. Medicaid, $1 trillion. Medicare, $1 trillion. That's $2 trillion on socialized medicine. The country does not need these programs. These programs have been a disaster. And by the way, these programs, you can say, well, you're taking money away from poor. It's pretty slippery here. I'm going down the steps a little bit. So, one thing I want to point out about Medicaid and Medicare, actually, there's a lot of things I want to point out about Medicaid and Medicare. And by the way, you're not hearing this from Trump or DOGE or any of those whiz kids. Hey, you could have hired this old boomer, man. You'd be way ahead of where we are for now, finding the gay Palestinian grant for theater for $35,000. I just made that up, but I said it sounds funny. So, all the money from Medicaid, I got 3 inches of snow, guys, so give me a break. And ice underneath it. There's a little bit of a hill there you cannot see in the snow. So, all the money from Medicaid and Medicare, none of it goes to old people and poor people. It all goes to wealthy doctors and hospitals and medical personnel, many of whom make pretty damn good salary. I love nurses, by the way. My mom was a nurse. In my system, nurses would be pretty much running everything because they'd have the freedom to do it. So that's point one. Point two, I have been asking for 30 years, show me any evidence that Medicaid and Medicare, they both came in around the same time thanks to that odious scumbag, LBJ. Hey, LBJ, how many kids did you kill today? Remember that when I was a kid. There is no evidence that Medicaid and Medicare, costing $2 trillion, an amazing amount of money over the years, have improved American health. So again, why do these things exist? Because of the ideology of progressivism. This assumption, progressivism is a form of, I got a lot of snow here. Progressivism is a form of therapy that doesn't require any evidence. People believe in progressive ideas like Medicare and Medicaid and Medicare, because they want to feel like problems are being solved somehow so they can feel better about their lives. It's really a pathetic sort of infantile. You got to be like a fucking fifth grader to believe this. Once it's been explained to you, that's what's going on. I could give you a break, but, now that my book is out, sorry, there's no excuses. Where obviously the country is a lot less healthy than it was. I could talk about the many ways in which Medicare and Medicaid have bureaucratized and over-regulated and over-complicated medicine, and I'm certain this fanatical desire to fit treatment into some Medicaid code so you can get paid. I'm certain these things have distorted medical care, and others have done that work, and I'm not going to replicate that. I'll try to have those citations in my book. So there you go. Just got rid of $2 trillion. Elon Musk and Trump and the whiz kids ain't ever going to fucking get rid of $2 trillion. And by the way, I've already gotten rid of $3 trillion, and I'm not even close to being done. Sorry, I've got about a foot of snow here. Okay, let's talk about socialism security. That's $1.5 trillion. So, thank you. I'm still pretty fit at age 67. Socialism security. Okay. This is again the product. It'd be great if everybody had a pension. Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great if everybody looked like Robert Redford when he was 25, and all the chicks looked like Sophia Loren when she was 22. Lots of things would be great. It'd be great if I could just get in a spaceship and travel all over the universe. Sorry, you can't, because all resources are scarce. All this money from socialism security, where's it coming from? Young workers. 14%. It's not 7 point whatever you think it is. It's 14%. Dwayne Whitmer and I it's an estimate. We did the calculation. If you're self-employed, it's 15.3%. This tax has killed me throughout my entire life. And still. So basically, let's stop taxing young people so old people who have more money than the young people do can hang around in diners all day long. Again, there's not a solution to every problem. I'm not going to go. I could talk about why we should get rid of Social Security for like 3 hours. I'm almost out of park space. I wouldn't throw anybody off. Blah 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 blah. There you go. I just did it. Just took a spill. I had solid ice under the snow. Okay, I'm fine. So let me adjust the camera. That's actually pretty funny. I'll probably get more views now. You can watch Ostrowski slip in the snow. So I have a plan to get rid of socialism security, but what's the point of even talking about it if people are ideologically brainwashed into thinking that this terrible program is a good idea? So if you want to get rid of it, I can get rid of it. I wouldn't force anybody off. I'm not going to kick grandma off of socialism security. I have a plan to do it. I'm not going to talk about it. So I just saved you I just saved you $4.5 trillion, which Elon Musk couldn't save you for the next 100 years. Welfare is about $900 billion. The federal welfare state has accomplished nothing but break up the black family, basically, and created like a scam culture. And if you want to have welfare in your town or county, fine. None of it should be federalized, and I'd save you about $500 million there. What else do we got? We got the debt. Now the debt, that's $900 billion. Why do we have a debt? Because we have this ideology of progressivism, which has no theory of costs. So when it comes time to saying like, hey, we could get rid of these progressive programs, or we could borrow more money. Yeah, borrow more money. So I'll get rid through all these cuts, we'll get rid of the interest on the debt. And by reprogramming people so that they don't have the infantile ideology of progressivism, we get rid of the need to borrow money to pretend that you're solving problems that you're not solving. Let's talk about, so really, I've pretty much gotten down to the so-called core functions of government. The military, that's about $1 trillion. Courts, police, prisons, roads, it's about $500 million. So if you take the sort of Milton Friedman, classical liberal sort of core functions of government plus roads and so on, you really only got like $1.5 trillion. But here's the thing with all that. Government courts don't do justice. The police don't protect your rights. They often violate your rights. Prisons are horrible places where we stockpile a lot of people who came out of government schools unprepared for life, and they go in there and they learn all the tricks about where do people hide the cash. It's always in the freezer. You know, they learn how to be professional burglars. They get out and they know those people. So prisons are horrible places. I'm not going to talk about my solution to that problem, but again, there's way too many people in prison. We should end the drug war, blah, 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 blah. Roads, they're dangerous places. Most of them should be privatized. Maybe we could have a couple public roads so that people wouldn't be kind of trapped in their, you know, if you had some really nasty private road owners, people don't want to be trapped. So, but most roads could be privatized. And they do a much better job. And if you look at where criminals operate, they operate on the government roads. So why should the public have access to, why should everybody, the most dangerous terrorist in the world can come to my front driveway and be 30 feet from my house? That's kind of silly. So I think we could, Walter Block wrote a book about this. I'm not going to replicate his work here. We could privatize a lot of roads, particularly, I think, in residential neighborhoods, and maybe have a few government roads again, so people could avoid this theoretical notion that private road owners would trap people and all this bullshit. So down to one thing. So we got about $1 trillion on the military. For what? I mean, the main threat. Throw my notes away here. The main threat to the security of the United States is Russia. I'm 16 miles from the Lewiston power plant. The Russians would take that out in about an hour in a war with a nuclear weapon, and I would be incinerated in the afterblast. So what's our defense against that? We have no defense. And I don't believe we're ever going to have a defense, because you can't shoot bullets. Bullets can't shoot bullets out of the air. So we have this bloated military protecting this far-flung sort of global military empire for what? And now Trump wants to go to Gaza, take over Gaza? I thought it was America first. So in my world, I'll talk about this in the future. I think on day one, you bring in my friend Ron Paul. Bring in a few red pencils. I think we could get rid of. I think we could get the military budget down to about $300 million. Now, interesting. Trump made a statement. A couple things, and then I'll close. Your friendly neighborhood podcast here. Who was the one that said that Europe was violating the NATO treaty by violating the First Amendment? You heard it here first. Well, that's what J.D. Vance said the other day. Same fucking thing. I said it 3 months ago. Do I have people monitoring my podcast? Oh, I absolutely do. Can I prove? I'm not saying you got the idea from me. I'm just saying you heard it here first. And Trump said something about nuclear weapons, that what a waste they are. You heard it here first 2 months ago. Large nuclear weapons, let's just leave it at large nuclear weapons, are absolutely useless, a waste of money, and we should get rid of them. And Trump just said that like 2 days ago. So I think I could get the military budget down to about a third, and then we could have, we wouldn't have to worry about tariffs versus income tax. We'd get down to the level of spending we had when the country was thriving economically back around 1900. It'd be 5-10%. And move all, I'm talking too much. So I've already way out of the park. So sorry, it's been a while to warm up, and hopefully made a few interesting points here. So I'll be back, busy week with the busy week. So probably won't be back on the trail here until next middle of next week. Thanks for listening, everybody. Please share.